Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, The Outsider. Vincent Mercer could measure his worth to the Davidson family with perfect precision. Absolutely nothing. 10 years of marriage to Natalie, a decade of family gatherings, and he remained the perpetual outsider, the man who was tolerated but never embraced. Today's spectacle at Harold Davidson's retirement party only confirmed what Vincent had always known. The banquet hall buzzed with conversation and laughter, crystal glasses clinked, and the smell of expensive cuisine filled the air. Harold Davidson had spared no expense to celebrate his 40 years in construction, building Davidson Enterprises from nothing into a regional powerhouse. Vincent sat quietly at the family table, observing. The Davidsons operated like a private club, old money wrapping itself around new influence, protecting their own with fierce loyalty. Next to him, Natalie sparkled in her designer dress, laughing with her cousins, barely acknowledging his presence. Their marriage had been cooling for months, but appearances needed to be maintained. If I could have everyone's attention, Harold's booming voice called out. The room fell silent as the patriarch stood, gray hair perfectly coiffed, command in his posture. Today marks the end of an era, but the beginning of a legacy. Vincent studied the man who had never hidden his disappointment that his only daughter had married a self-made contractor rather than one of the polished trust fund candidates he'd preferred. Vincent had built his construction company from scratch, specializing in precision renovations of historical properties, work requiring both artistry and engineering skill. But to Harold, Vincent would always be the rough-handed laborer who'd stolen his princess. As I step away from the helm of Davidson Enterprises, Harold continued, I want to recognize the family that supported me through every challenge and triumph. One by one, family members were called forward. Harold's brothers received vintage watches from their father's collection. Nephews and nieces accepted envelopes containing deeds to vacation properties or stock certificates. Natalie's mother wiped away tears as she was presented with a diamond necklace to match the sparkle in her eyes that had captured his heart 45 years ago. Then came Natalie's turn. Harold's voice softened as he called his daughter forward, presenting her with a small wooden box. The Davidson sapphires, he announced. 5 generations of Davidson women have worn them on their most important days. Now they're yours to cherish. Vincent watched his wife's eyes fill with tears as she embraced her father. He didn't expect anything himself, had never expected anything, so the surprise came not from being overlooked but from what happened next. Vincent, Natalie appeared beside him, holding not a gift but a serving tray. Could you take this back to the kitchen? They're short-staffed. He looked at the tray, then at his wife's expectant face. You want me to bust tables at your father's retirement party? Don't make a scene, she whispered, her smile fixed for any watching eyes. You're not real family. Just help out. The tray felt cold in his hands. 10 years. A decade of trying to earn a place at this table. Vincent stood, dignity intact, and turned toward the kitchen doors. Actually, Harold's voice rang out, there's one thing I saved for last. Vincent paused, the weight of eyes on his back. Vincent, would you join me up here, son? The room fell silent. Vincent set down the tray and approached the podium, feeling Natalie's stunned gaze following him. Harold placed a hand on Vincent's shoulder. 10 years ago, I thought my daughter had made a terrible mistake. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I saw only a contractor without pedigree or connections. What I failed to see was a man of vision and integrity. Vincent maintained his composure, though inside, conflict churned. After years of cold shoulders and thinly veiled condescension, Harold's sudden warmth felt suspect. While others in this family were born to privilege, Harold continued, Vincent built his success brick by brick with his own hands. He turned to face Vincent directly. You've proven me wrong in every way that matters, and I'm man enough to admit it. Harold reached into his jacket and withdrew an envelope. This isn't a gift, Vincent. It's something you've earned. He handed over the envelope. The Westbrook Estate renovation contract. The Historical Commission unanimously selected your bid, though they don't know I've added a personal investment to ensure it becomes your signature achievement. Natalie's face had gone pale. The Westbrook Estate was the most prestigious restoration project in the state, a contract worth millions that would cement Vincent's company among the elite firms. To Vincent Mercer, Harold raised his glass. The future of craftsmanship in this family. Applause filled the room, some genuine, some confused, some clearly reluctant. Vincent accepted the envelope with a firm handshake. Thank you, Harold. I won't disappoint you. As he returned to his seat, Natalie touched his arm. I had no idea, she whispered, her earlier dismissal apparently forgotten. Vincent said nothing, merely nodded. Something had shifted today, though not in the way anyone in the room might suspect. In that moment of public validation and private humiliation, a seed had been planted in Vincent's mind, a seed that would grow into something far darker than anyone could imagine. Chapter 2. Fault Lines. The Davidson sapphires gleamed against Natalie's throat as she examined her reflection, tilting her head to catch the light. Vincent watched from the doorway of their bedroom, his thoughts circling around the events of the previous night. Harold has never endorsed anyone like that before, Natalie said, eyes meeting his in the mirror. You should feel honored. Is that what I should feel? Vincent asked, his voice neutral. She turned to face him, the necklace drawing his attention to the elegant line of her collarbone. What does that mean? You handed me a serving tray, Natalie, in front of everyone. Oh, don't be so sensitive. She waved dismissively. It was nothing. You're not real family. He quoted her words back precisely. A flash of irritation crossed her face. I was stressed. Dad was giving away family heirlooms. You know how important this transition is for everyone. For the real family, Vincent said. Natalie sighed, approaching him with practiced contrition. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. She smoothed his collar. But look at what came of it, the Westbrook contract. This changes everything for your business. Vincent noted her choice of words. Your business, not our future. Another hairline fracture in the foundation of their marriage. Yes, he agreed. It changes everything. Later that morning, Vincent drove to the Westbrook Estate, a magnificent 19th-century mansion that had fallen into disrepair. The Historical Commission had been seeking the right firm to restore it to its former glory while modernizing its infrastructure. Standing on the sweeping grounds, Vincent felt a familiar satisfaction. This was where he belonged, assessing structural integrity, imagining possibilities, solving the puzzles of restoration. His phone vibrated with a text from Parker Sullivan, his project manager and closest friend. Congratulations on Westbrook. Champagne tonight? Vincent texted back. Site visit now. Me at office at 3. As he pocketed his phone, another text arrived from an unknown number. Your father-in-law's endorsement came with strings attached. Meet me at Riverside Park, North Gazebo, 1 p.m. if you want the truth. Vincent stared at the message, a cold certainty settling in his stomach. He'd never trusted Harold's sudden change of heart. At precisely 1 p.m., Vincent approached the gazebo overlooking the river. A woman in her early 40s sat on the bench, her posture rigid with tension. Mr. Mercer? She asked as he approached. Yes, and you are? Diana Lowell, Chief Financial Officer at Davidson Enterprises. She gestured to the space beside her. Please sit. Vincent remained standing. What strings are attached to the Westbrook contract? Diana glanced around before speaking. Harold is dying. Pancreatic cancer. 6 months, maybe less. The information landed like a physical blow. Despite their differences, Vincent had respected the older man. I'm sorry to hear that, Vincent said. But what does this have to do with me? Everything. Diana pulled out a tablet. Harold's succession plan names you as interim CEO of Davidson Enterprises after his death. Vincent's surprise must have shown on his face. Not what you expected? Diana asked. Not even close. Why not Natalie or one of his nephews? Diana's expression tightened. Because Davidson Enterprises is in trouble. Serious trouble. She swiped through several documents on her tablet. The company has been losing money for years. Harold's been covering it with personal funds and increasingly risky loans. When he dies, those loans come due. And he wants me to clean up his mess? He wants you to take the fall. Diana's eyes met his. Think about it. The outsider who suddenly gains control, then mismanages the company into bankruptcy. Meanwhile, the family assets will have been quietly transferred to a new holding company, one in which you have no stake. Vincent processed this, his expression revealing nothing. Why are you telling me this, Diana? Because I've worked for this company for 15 years. I've built my reputation on honest accounting, and I'm not going to prison for fraud. She handed him a flash drive. Everything's here. The shell companies, the diverted funds, the loan structures. Harold may be dying, but he's orchestrating one final con to protect the family fortune. And my wife? What's her role in this? Diana hesitated. Natalie has been on the board for 5 years, Mr. Mercer. She signs the quarterly reports. She knows. The pieces clicked into place. Natalie's increasing emotional distance, her sudden interest in company meetings, the late nights she claimed were spent with friends. There's more, Diana said quietly. About Natalie and Dominic Foster. Who's Dominic Foster? Harold's nephew, his sister's son. He joined the company 3 years ago as legal counsel. Diana couldn't meet his eyes. They've been close. Vincent felt something shift inside him. Not pain, but a cold, clarifying anger. How close? I've said enough. Diana stood. What you do with this information is your choice, Mr. Mercer. But be careful. The Davidsons protect their own. After Diana left, Vincent sat alone in the gazebo, turning the flash drive over in his hands. The foundation of his life, his marriage, his business relationships, his future plans, had just revealed its fatal flaws. Like any master builder, Vincent knew that when a foundation couldn't be repaired, the only option was to demolish and rebuild. His phone buzzed again. Natalie, dinner with Dad tonight. He wants to discuss the transition. Wear the blue suit. Vincent texted back a simple confirmation, his mind already mapping a different sort of transition, one that would leave nothing of his old life standing. Chapter 3. Hidden Chambers. The Anderson project had been Vincent's first major restoration, a Victorian-era home with hidden rooms and passageways that had tested his ingenuity. Now, sitting in his home office while Natalie prepared for their dinner with Harold, Vincent applied those same skills to unraveling the hidden structures of his marriage. Diana Lowell's flash drive had revealed a labyrinth of financial deceptions, accounts in the Cayman Islands, falsified profit reports, and systematic looting of the company's pension fund. But Vincent was more interested in the personal communications folder. Emails between Natalie and Dominic Foster dating back 2 years painted an intimate picture of betrayal. Hotel receipts, plans coordinated around Vincent's business trips, discussions of their future together once the situation was resolved. Vincent felt strangely calm as he read through their exchanges. The man he had been a week ago might have felt devastated. That man was gone now, replaced by someone colder and more calculating. His phone rang. Parker Sullivan. I've got the initial assessment for Westbrook, Parker said when Vincent answered. But there's something off about the contract terms. The payment schedule's unusual. In what way? Vincent asked, though he already suspected the answer. Major payments backloaded, with your company fronting most of the expenses. If anything goes wrong mid-project, you be exposed financially. As designed, Vincent murmured. What? Nothing. Listen, Parker, I need you to do something for me. Quietly. Of course. What's going on, Vince? I'll explain everything soon. But right now, I need you to transfer the Anderson documentation to a secure server. All of it, especially the technical specs for the security system. Silence on the line. Parker had helped design that system, a state-of-the-art setup that allowed the homeowner to monitor and control every aspect of the property remotely. Vince, that's proprietary client information. We can't just. It's for a similar installation, Vincent interrupted. I'll handle the permissions. Just give me those files. After ending the call, Vincent opened his personal safe and removed a small black notebook, his contingency plan journal. For years, he documented potential business threats and their countermeasures, a habit that had saved his company more than once. Now, he began a new entry. Threat: Davidson family conspiracy to destroy my company and reputation players. Harold, Natalie, Dominic Foster, unknown others timeline. Accelerated due to Harold's illness. Verify medical records, vulnerabilities, control of information, legal exposure, emotional manipulation assets, advanced knowledge, technical skills, liquid reserves and separate accounts, the Anderson system. Vincent closed the notebook as Natalie appeared in the doorway, stunning in a deep blue dress that complemented her eyes. "You're not dressed," she observed. "We need to leave in 20 minutes. "I'll be ready," Vincent assured her. "Just finalizing some notes on Westbrook." She smiled, coming to perch on his desk. "Dad's really excited about your involvement. He's been telling everyone how visionary you are." "That's quite a change from not real family," Vincent remarked. Natalie's smile faltered. "Are you still upset about that?" "I told you I was sorry." "No, not upset." Vincent stood and kissed her forehead. "Just adapting to my new position." "Well, adapt into your suit," she teased, patting his chest. "Tonight's important." Vincent watched her leave, then turned back to his computer to send one final email before dinner. Its recipient, Diana Lowell. Its content, a proposal she wouldn't be able to refuse. Dinner at Harold's penthouse unfolded like a perfectly orchestrated performance. Crystal gleamed, fine wine flowed, and Harold Davidson held court at the head of the table. Every inch the patriarch, despite the new gauntness in his face that Vincent now recognized as the mark of his illness. "The Westbrook restoration will be the crown jewel of your portfolio," Harold was saying, raising his glass to Vincent. "And just the beginning of our new partnership." "I'm honored by your confidence," Vincent replied, the appropriate amount of gratitude in his voice. "Family supports family," Harold declared. "Isn't that right, Natalie?" Vincent watched his wife nod enthusiastically, the Davidson sapphires catching the light at her throat. Beside her sat Dominic Foster, introduced as Harold's legal advisor for the evening. Foster was younger than Vincent had expected, perhaps 35, with the polished good looks of old money and a Harvard law degree. "The succession plan is quite elegant," Foster said, smiling at Vincent with perfect teeth. "Harold has thought of everything." "I'm sure he has," Vincent agreed, returning the smile while noting how Dominic's hand briefly touched Natalie's beneath the table. As dinner progressed, Vincent played his role flawlessly, the grateful son-in-law being welcomed into the inner circle at last. He asked the right questions about the company structure, expressed appropriate concern about Harold's health, and deferred to the family's greater experience in corporate matters. "You'll have full operational control," Harold explained, "with the family board providing strategic guidance. And a convenient scapegoat when it all collapses," Vincent thought, but said, "I appreciate your trust, Harold. I won't let you down." "I know you won't, son." Harold's eyes, sharp despite his illness, held Vincent's. "You're a builder. You understand that sometimes you have to tear something down to make it stronger." The double meaning hung in the air between them, a challenge issued and accepted in the same breath. Later, as they prepared to leave, Harold took Vincent aside in his study. "There's one more thing." He withdrew a small wooden box from his desk. "This is for you, a symbol of my trust." Vincent opened the box to find an antique pocket watch, its case engraved with the Davidson family crest. "This belonged to my grandfather," Harold said, "the first Davidson builder." "I can't accept this," Vincent said, understanding exactly what this gesture meant. Not inclusion, but evidence. A gift to the son-in-law just before the company's collapse would suggest Vincent had been welcomed and trusted completely. "I insist." Harold pressed the box into Vincent's hands. "Your family now." Vincent closed his fingers around the box, thinking of the other gift Harold had planned for him: financial ruin and public disgrace. "Thank you," Vincent said quietly. "I'll treasure it." On the drive home, Natalie chatted excitedly about their new future, while Vincent listened in silence. When they arrived home, he declined her suggestion of a nightcap, claiming fatigue. In their bedroom, Vincent watched as Natalie carefully removed the sapphire necklace, placing it in its velvet-lined box with reverent hands. "Beautiful, aren't they?" she said, catching his reflection in her mirror. "Yes," Vincent agreed, thinking not of the jewels but of what was to come. Some things are too precious to lose. Later, while Natalie slept, Vincent stood at their bedroom window, Harold's pocket watch in his palm. Every building had its weak points, the places where pressure, properly applied, would cause the entire structure to fail. The Davidson family empire was no different. Vincent opened the watch, unsurprised to find a hidden compartment behind the timepiece. Inside was a small key, old but well-maintained. Another piece of the puzzle, another hidden chamber waiting to be explored. The builder and Vincent appreciated the craftsmanship of Harold's plan. The husband in him mourned what had been lost. But the man he was becoming, that man began to construct something new from the ruins of his trust. A design not of restoration, but of calculated retribution. Chapter 4. Excavation. "You've been quiet all week," Natalie observed over breakfast, 3 days after their dinner with Harold. "Is something wrong with the Westbrook project?" Vincent looked up from his tablet, where he'd been reviewing the information Diana Lowell had been sending him. Detailed accounts of Davidson Enterprises' financial manipulations. "Just focused," he replied, offering a reassuring smile. "A project this size requires complete attention." "Well, don't forget we have the charity gala tomorrow night," Natalie reminded him. "The whole family will be there, plus half the city's business leaders. Dad wants to introduce you as the future of Davidson Enterprises." Vincent nodded. The future of Davidson Enterprises. I wouldn't miss it. After Natalie left for her Pilates class, though Vincent now knew she was meeting Dominic Foster at the Lakeside Hotel, he drove to the offices of Mercer Restoration. The company he'd built from nothing occupied 3 floors of a renovated warehouse downtown. Its exposed brick walls and reclaimed timber beams a testament to his philosophy of honoring the past while building for the future. Parker Sullivan was waiting in Vincent's office, concern etched on his features. At 45, Parker had been with Vincent since the beginning, a structural engineer whose brilliance was matched only by his loyalty. "I've secured those Anderson files you asked for," Parker said without preamble. "Now will you tell me what's going on? You've been different since the retirement party." Vincent closed his office door. "What I'm about to tell you involves serious legal risks. If you want to walk away after hearing it, I'll understand." Parker's expression hardened. 10 years, Vince. Have I ever walked away? For the next hour, Vincent laid out everything. Harold's terminal illness, the company's impending collapse, Natalie's affair with Dominic, and the plan to make Vincent the fall guy for decades of corporate malfeasance. Parker listened in stunned silence, then let out a low whistle. "Jesus, Vince. What are you going to do?" "Not what they expect," Vincent replied, unlocking a drawer in his desk and removing his contingency journal. "I'm going to expose the fraud, but not as their scapegoat, as the person who discovered and reported it. But if you do that, Davidson Enterprises will collapse, yes, and the family will lose everything." Vincent's voice remained calm, detached. "Including their control over my future." "And Natalie?" Vincent's expression didn't change. "My wife made her choice when she decided to betray me, both personally and professionally." "This isn't like you, Vince," Parker said quietly. "You've always been the guy who fixes things, not the one who tears them down." Sometimes Vincent quoted Harold's words back to him, "You have to tear something down to make it stronger." He opened his journal to a fresh page and began writing. "I need your help with 4 things. First, quietly transfer our most valuable contracts to our subsidiary company. Second, prepare legal documentation showing that I discovered financial irregularities at Davidson Enterprises during my preliminary review." "That's getting into dangerous territory," Parker warned. "Third," Vincent continued as if he hadn't heard, "I need the Anderson security system reconfigured for a new installation. And fourth, I need it done by tomorrow night." Parker stared at him. "The gala? What are you planning?" Vincent closed his journal. "Justice, Parker. Nothing more or less than what they deserve." That afternoon, Vincent visited the Westbrook estate again, this time with a different purpose. While the historical commissioner guided him through the property, pointing out architectural features that needed preservation, Vincent was cataloging hiding places, sight lines, and potential security vulnerabilities. The original owner was quite paranoid, the commissioner explained as they entered a wood-paneled study. This room contains 3 hidden compartments that we know of. Vincent examined the intricate woodwork, identifying the subtle pressure points that would reveal the hidden spaces. Fascinating craftsmanship. We've been hesitant to modernize this room too much, the commissioner continued. The historical integrity will be maintained completely, Vincent assured him. In fact, I'd like to preserve these security features as a demonstration of period technology. Later, alone in the study, Vincent examined the antique key from Harold's pocket watch. The craftsmanship matched the era of the house. Not a coincidence, he was certain. After trying several of the hidden compartments, the key finally fit into an almost invisible keyhole behind a bookshelf. The compartment contained a single document, a deed to the Westbrook estate itself, dated 1892, bearing the name Davidson. Of course, Vincent murmured, photographing the document. It wasn't just any house. Harold wasn't merely offering Vincent a prestigious restoration contract. He was asking him to restore the original Davidson family home, lost generations ago and now reacquired. The symbolism would have been poetic if it weren't so manipulative. That evening, Vincent received a text from Diana Lowell. Foster moved up the timeline. Transfer papers being prepared for your signature after the gala announcement. Full dossier on his activities in your secure email. Vincent thanked her, then opened the encrypted email on a dedicated laptop. The dossier revealed that Dominic Foster had orchestrated similar schemes at 2 previous companies, joining as trusted legal counsel, identifying a potential scapegoat, then managing the controlled implosion while protecting key assets. A pattern, then, not personal malice against Vincent specifically, but a calculated strategy that had worked before. The knowledge should have been comforting, but instead, it hardened Vincent's resolve. He would not be another name on Foster's list of victims. He sent a brief response to Diana, tomorrow night. Be ready. When Natalie returned home that evening, flushed and apologetic about her extended lunch with friends, Vincent greeted her with a tender kiss. I've been thinking, he said, stroking her hair. You were right. I've been distant this week. Relief flooded her features. You have been. I was worried. The pressure of the Westbrook project, your father's announcement tomorrow, it's a lot to process. He took her hands in his. But I'm grateful, Natalie, for everything. Guilt flickered briefly in her eyes. What brought this on? Perspective, Vincent said simply. Tomorrow night is a new beginning for us. I want us to enter it with nothing but honesty between us. Honesty, she repeated, not meeting his gaze. Is there anything you want to tell me? Vincent asked gently. Anything at all? For a moment, it seemed she might confess. Her lips parted, her breathing quickened. Then she shook her head. No, nothing. Vincent nodded, accepting her choice. Then let's enjoy tonight. I've made reservations at Antonio's, your favorite. Over dinner, Vincent was the attentive husband they both pretended he had always been. He asked about her day, complimented her dress, and shared amusing anecdotes from the Westbrook site visit. Not once did he hint at his knowledge of her betrayal or his plans for retribution. It was only as they were leaving the restaurant that Vincent paused, as if struck by a sudden thought. I almost forgot, he said, reaching into his pocket. A gift for tomorrow's announcement. He presented her with a small velvet box. Inside was a pair of sapphire earrings. Not Davidson heirlooms, but new pieces he'd had commissioned to match her necklace. Vincent, they're beautiful. Natalie breathed, genuinely touched. You didn't have to. I wanted to, he interrupted, kissing her cheek. They're designed to complement the Davidson sapphires. Family supporting family, right? Her smile faltered for just an instant before she recovered. Right. Family. That night, lying beside his sleeping wife, Vincent finalized the details of his plan. Every contingency accounted for, every reaction anticipated. By this time tomorrow, the Davidson family legacy would be irrevocably altered, excavated to its rotten foundation and exposed for all to see. Vincent closed his eyes, not to sleep, but to visualize the blueprint of his vengeance. a design more precise and unforgiving than any building he had ever created. Chapter 5. Load-Bearing Walls. The charity gala transformed the Grand Plaza Hotel's ballroom into a glittering showcase of the city's elite. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light over silk gowns and bespoke suits, while a string quartet played unobtrusively in the corner. The air hummed with power, privilege, and the underlying current of ambition that fueled such gatherings. Vincent adjusted his bow tie, surveying the scene with clinical detachment. Every person in this room played a role in his design, some knowingly, most as unwitting structural elements supporting the weight of what was to come. "You look devastatingly handsome," Natalie whispered, appearing at his side in a midnight blue gown that showcased the Davidson sapphires at her throat and ears. "Every woman here is wondering how I got so lucky." Vincent smiled, placing his hand at the small of her back. "The luckiest man in the room, that's me." Across the ballroom, he caught sight of Dominic Foster in conversation with Harold. The younger man's attention, however, kept straying to Natalie, brief, hungry glances that confirmed everything Vincent needed to know. "Your father seems energetic tonight," Vincent observed. "No one would guess he's unwell." Natalie tensed slightly beside him. "What do you mean?" "Diana mentioned his health concerns," Vincent said casually. "I assumed you knew." "Diana Lowell spoke to you?" "About Dad." The alarm in Natalie's voice was genuine. In passing, Vincent assured her. Something about making sure the transition goes smoothly, given his treatments. Before Natalie could respond, Harold himself approached, his public persona firmly in place despite the pallor beneath his tan. "There's my visionary son-in-law," Harold boomed, clapping Vincent on the shoulder. "Ready for your grand introduction?" "Born ready," Vincent replied with an easy confidence that made Harold nod approvingly. "That's the spirit." Harold turned to his daughter. "Natalie, the McAllisters are asking for you. Something about the Children's Hospital fundraiser." As Natalie moved away, Harold's demeanor shifted subtly, his voice lowering. "Foster tells me you've been asking questions about the company structure, studying the financial reports." "Due diligence," Vincent explained. "If I'm to step into your shoes, I need to understand exactly what I'm walking into." Harold studied him carefully. "And what do you think you're walking into, Vincent?" "A complex situation that requires a steady hand." Vincent met his father-in-law's gaze without flinching. "Fortunately, I'm good with complicated structures." A flash of something, respect, perhaps, or wariness, crossed Harold's face. "Indeed you are. That's why I chose you." He checked his watch. 20 minutes until the announcement. "I suggest you use that time to circulate. Make connections. These people will be instrumental to your success. Or witnesses to my destruction," Vincent thought, but didn't say. As Harold walked away, Vincent felt his phone vibrate with a text from Parker. "Systems activated. Monitors accessible on your secure tablet. Diana, in position." Vincent acknowledged with a single letter, K, then made his way through the crowd, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries with the city's business leaders, politicians, and socialites. Each conversation was brief but purposeful, laying groundwork for what would follow. At the bar, he encountered Dominic Foster ordering champagne. 2 glasses, Foster specified, before noticing Vincent. "Ah, the man of the hour." "Excited about the announcement." "Anticipating it," Vincent replied, accepting a whiskey from the bartender. "Though I admit, I'm still learning the intricacies of Davidson Enterprises." Foster smiled, the expression not reaching his eyes. "It's a complex organization. Fortunately, you'll have the family board to guide you through the challenging parts. I've always found that the best way to understand a structure is to examine its foundation," Vincent said, raising his glass in a toast. "What lies beneath tells you everything about stability." Foster's smile faltered slightly. "Sometimes what lies beneath is best left undisturbed." Mercer. "Perhaps," Vincent conceded, "but I've built my career on knowing exactly where to look for hidden weaknesses." The 2 men regarded each other with newfound clarity, opponents recognizing the opening moves of a chess match already in progress. "Enjoy your moment in the spotlight," Foster said finally, taking both champagne glasses. "I've prepared Quite an introduction for you. As Foster walked away, Vincent checked his secure tablet. The surveillance system he had installed, modeled after the Anderson design, but significantly enhanced, was functioning perfectly. Split-screen displays showed Harold's private office at the hotel, where Foster had just entered, setting down the champagne glasses and removing a folder from his briefcase. Another screen showed Natalie in conversation with the mayor's wife, her body language relaxed but her eyes constantly scanning the room. A third display monitored Diana Lowell, positioned near the service entrance with a slim portfolio case. Vincent put away the tablet as the string quartet fell silent, replaced by the gentle chiming of a spoon against crystal. Harold calling for attention. "Friends, colleagues, distinguished guests," Harold began, standing at the center of the ballroom with commanding presence. "Tonight is more than a charity gala. It's a celebration of legacy and future." The crowd turned toward him, conversations fading to attentive silence. "For 40 years, I've had the privilege of building Davidson Enterprises from a small construction firm into the company you know today." Harold's voice carried emotion that, Vincent noted, seemed entirely genuine. "Now, as I prepare for the next chapter of my life, I want to introduce you to the man who will lead our family legacy forward." Natalie appeared at Vincent's side, squeezing his hand with what felt like genuine pride. "This is it," she whispered. "Vincent Mercer," Harold continued, gesturing toward him, "has demonstrated extraordinary vision, integrity, and skill in his own right. Though he came into our family as my daughter's husband, tonight I am proud to welcome him as my successor." Applause filled the room. Vincent moved forward, the perfect picture of humility and gratitude as he joined Harold at the center of the gathering. "Thank you, Harold," Vincent said, his voice carrying clearly through the ballroom. "And thank you all for your warm welcome. The Davidson legacy is one of excellence and innovation, values I've always strived to embody in my own work." He paused, scanning the rapt faces before him. "When Harold first approached me about this transition, I was honored but cautious. Taking the helm of such a prestigious company is no small responsibility." Harold nodded approvingly beside him. "So I did what any builder would do," Vincent continued. "I examined the foundation." A subtle shift in the room's energy, Harold's posture stiffening, Dominic Foster setting down his champagne glass. "What I discovered," Vincent said, his tone shifting from warm to clinical, "was a structure in danger of catastrophic failure." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Harold stepped closer, laying a warning hand on Vincent's arm, which Vincent smoothly evaded. "Davidson Enterprises," Vincent announced clearly, "has been systematically defrauded for the past 7 years. Pension funds diverted, profits hidden in offshore accounts, loans secured against falsified assets." The room erupted in shocked whispers. Harold's face drained of color. "Vincent," he hissed, "what are you doing?" "Exactly what you trained me to do," Vincent replied quietly. "Tearing down to rebuild." Before Harold could respond, Vincent raised his voice again. "As evidence of these assertions, I provided the SEC with comprehensive documentation." He nodded toward the rear of the ballroom, where federal agents were already entering through the main doors. Simultaneously, Diana Lowell stepped forward from her position near the service entrance, catching the attention of the nearest reporter. "As Chief Financial Officer of Davidson Enterprises," she said clearly, "I can confirm Mr. Mercer's allegations and provide supporting documentation." Chaos erupted. Guests backed away from Harold and Vincent, creating a visible divide in the crowd. Natalie pushed through to her father's side, her face a mask of shock and betrayal. "You can't do this," she whispered furiously to Vincent. "This is my family." "Interesting definition of family," Vincent replied, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "Does it include your lover, Dominic? Or just the people whose money you were planning to protect while I took the fall for your father's crimes?" Natalie's face went white. "You know, everything," Vincent confirmed. "Every email, every hotel receipt, every conference call planning my professional execution." Harold swayed slightly, his illness suddenly visible beneath his crumbling composure. "This won't stand," he said hoarsely. "We'll deny everything." It's your word against decades of documented evidence. Vincent interrupted as federal agents approached their position, including the files in Foster's briefcase upstairs, the ones outlining how ownership of company assets would transfer to shell corporations after my appointment. Dominic Foster began moving toward the exit, only to find his path blocked by two agents. "Mr. Foster," one said formally, "we'd like to speak with you about your involvement in similar situations at Westridge Capital and Pinnacle Industries." As Foster was escorted away, Vincent turned back to Harold and Natalie, his expression devoid of emotion. "The structural failure was inevitable," he told them quietly. "I simply controlled the demolition." An agent approached, addressing Harold. "Mr. Davidson, we need you to come with us for questioning." Harold's eyes never left Vincent's face. "You've destroyed everything I built." "No," Vincent corrected him. "You did that yourself. I'm just the one who refused to be buried in the rubble." As Harold was led away, Natalie grabbed Vincent's arm. "What about me?" she demanded, tears streaking her perfect makeup. "What happens to me in this plan of yours?" Vincent gently removed her hand from his sleeve. "That depends on the choices you make next," he said. "Unlike your father and Dominic, you have options." "What options?" she asked bitterly. "You've taken everything." Vincent leaned close, his voice for her ears alone. "Option 1. Cooperate with the investigation, return the money you've hidden in your private account, and walk away with your freedom and a clean slate." Her eyes widened in shock that he knew about her secret funds. "Option 2, he continued, claim ignorance and loyalty to your father and Foster. Fight the charges. Lose everything anyway, including your liberty." "You're asking me to betray my family," she whispered. "I'm offering you the chance to save yourself," Vincent corrected. "More than you offered me." The Davidson sapphires gleamed at her throat, a family legacy now tarnished beyond repair. She reached up, unfastening the necklace with trembling fingers. "You should take these," she said, holding them out to him. "They're probably worth something." Vincent didn't take them. "Keep them, Natalie. A reminder of choices and consequences." As reporters swarmed and cameras flashed, Vincent walked away from his wife, his gaze already fixed on the future rising from the ruins he had engineered. Chapter 6. Pressure Points. 3 weeks after the gala, Vincent sat in the conference room of Mercer Restoration, reviewing final plans for the Westbrook estate. The scandal had dominated headlines for days, but Vincent had remained largely above the fray, portrayed by the media as the whistleblower who had discovered financial irregularities during his preliminary review of Davidson Enterprises. Parker Sullivan entered, closing the door behind him. "The bankruptcy court approved the sale of Davidson's remaining legitimate assets," he reported. "Our bid for the construction division was accepted." Vincent nodded, making a note on his tablet. "And the estate? The Historical Commission wants to proceed with the restoration under our original contract. They were impressed by your integrity in the Davidson matter." Outside the windows, autumn sunlight glinted off the river. Vincent had always appreciated this view, the water's constant movement, its ability to shape even the hardest stone through persistent pressure. "Any word from Natalie's attorneys?" Vincent asked. Parker hesitated. "She's accepted your settlement offer. Full divorce, no claims on your business assets, in exchange for the penthouse and a reasonable monthly allowance." "Good." Vincent's tone was neutral, businesslike. "And the other matter? Diana Lowell has been offered immunity in exchange for her testimony. She asked me to thank you for keeping your word." Vincent allowed himself a small smile. "She earned it. Without her documentation, none of this would have been possible." Parker pulled up a chair, his expression serious. "Foster is still fighting the charges. His attorneys are claiming entrapment, saying you set him up at the gala." "Let him fight," Vincent said dismissively. "The evidence speaks for itself." "And Harold," Vincent's expression hardened. "Terminal cancer doesn't preclude serving time, even if it's in a medical facility." Parker studied his friend. In the weeks since the gala, Vincent had transformed, not outwardly, but in subtle ways that only someone who knew him well would notice. The warmth that had once tempered his precision had been replaced by something colder, more absolute. "You never told me how you knew," Parker said finally. About the pocket watch, the key, the connection to Westbrook Estate. How did you put it all together? Vincent leaned back in his chair. Harold made a fundamental mistake. He saw me as a convenient tool, the craftsman who could restore his ancestral home while taking the fall for his financial crimes. But he forgot that builders understand systems better than anyone. He picked up a blueprint of the Westbrook Estate, tracing his finger along the intricate design. Every structure has its pressure points, the places where, if properly stressed, the entire system fails. Harold Davidson was no different. Parker nodded slowly. And Natalie, do you ever think about reconciliation? No. The word held absolute finality. Some betrayals can't be forgiven. The intercom buzzed, interrupting their conversation. Vincent's assistant announced the arrival of a visitor, Helena Reeves, Harold Davidson's sister and Dominic Foster's mother. Vincent exchanged a surprised glance with Parker before instructing his assistant to send her in. Helena Reeves entered the conference room with the confident stride of someone accustomed to power. At 65, she remained striking. Silver hair swept into an elegant chignon, posture military straight, eyes sharp with intelligence and purpose. "Mr. Mercer," she said, declining Vincent's gesture toward chair. "I'll be brief. You've dismantled my brother's company, destroyed my son's legal career, and humiliated our family name." "Your family did that themselves, Mrs. Reeves," Vincent replied calmly. "I merely exposed the truth." Her eyes flashed with anger. "The truth? Let me tell you about truth, Mr. Mercer. Davidson Enterprises supported hundreds of families, funded community projects, built half the infrastructure in this city. Now those employees are jobless, those projects abandoned. The construction division will continue under new management," Vincent noted. "Those jobs are safe." "How convenient for you," Helena sneered. "The builder acquires his rival's assets at bankruptcy prices while positioning himself as a hero." Vincent regarded her steadily. "Did you come here to accuse me of something specific, Mrs. Reeves, or simply to vent your displeasure?" "I came to warn you," she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous register. "You've made powerful enemies. My family has connections you can't imagine. People who owe us favors, people who understand loyalty." "Interesting," Vincent observed. "Your definition of loyalty seems to include fraud, conspiracy, and infidelity. I wonder if these powerful connections share your flexible ethics." Helena stepped closer, her composure slipping. "My nephew-in-law was supposed to be the fall guy in a necessary business restructuring. Instead, you become the architect of our destruction. There will be consequences." Vincent rose slowly, towering over her despite her commanding presence. "Let me be perfectly clear, Mrs. Reeves. I've documented every aspect of your family's criminal activities, including your own role as a silent board member who approved diverted pension funds. Those documents are secured with instructions for their release should anything happen to me or my company." Fear flickered briefly in her eyes before being masked by defiance. "You think you've won," she said. "You haven't. This isn't over." "On that point," Vincent agreed, "we understand each other perfectly." After Helena stormed out, Parker whistled low. "That was intense. Think she's serious about retaliation?" "Absolutely," Vincent confirmed, "which is why we're implementing Phase 2 immediately." "Phase 2? Parker looked confused. "I thought the Davidson matter was concluded." Vincent turned to his computer, pulling up a secure file. Harold, Natalie, and Foster were just the beginning. The entire Davidson network needs to be restructured. On the screen appeared a complex organizational chart, a web of connections linking the Davidson family to various businesses, political figures, and social institutions throughout the city. "Jesus, Vince," Parker muttered. "How long have you been working on this?" "Since the night of the retirement party," Vincent said, his voice distant with memory. "When I recognized what they intended for me, I began mapping everyone involved in their ecosystem, beneficiaries, enablers, silent partners." "And what exactly do you plan to do with this information?" Vincent's expression remained neutral, but his eyes held cold determination. "Apply pressure to the right points until the entire structure collapses, just as they would have done to me." Parker looked troubled. This is starting to sound less like justice and more like retribution. Vincent finished for him. Yes, perhaps it is. Later that evening, Vincent sat alone in his new apartment overlooking the city. The space was minimalist, functional, a deliberate contrast to the lavish penthouse he had shared with Natalie. Here, every element served a purpose, without ornamentation or sentimentality. His phone chimed with a text from an unfamiliar number. They're planning something. Meeting tonight at the Winslow Club. Foster, Helena, and 3 others. Details in your secure email. DL. Vincent sent a brief acknowledgement, then opened his laptop to check the encrypted message from Diana Lowell. Her position as the state's key witness against the Davidsons had not diminished her value as Vincent's inside source. If anything, her visibility now protected her from retaliation while giving her access to information others might conceal. The email contained meeting details, security arrangements, and a list of attendees, including 2 names that surprised even Vincent. Powerful connections indeed. He opened his contingency journal, adding these new players to his organizational chart. Every person who had benefited from Davidson corruption, every individual who had looked the other way, every enabler who might now seek vengeance on behalf of the family, all mapped with precision. Vincent had once specialized in preserving historical structures while modernizing their functionality. Now he applied those same skills to a different kind of renovation, the systematic dismantling of a corrupt network that had nearly destroyed him. One by one, he identified the pressure points within this larger system. The weak connections, the vulnerable dependencies, the load-bearing relationships that, if removed, would bring down entire sections of the Davidson influence. As midnight approached, Vincent activated a secure connection to the surveillance system he had installed at the Winslow Club months earlier. Not in anticipation of this specific meeting, but as part of his broader strategy of information gathering. The exclusive club's private dining room came into view on his screen. Helena Reeves sat at the head of the table, flanked by attorneys representing both Harold and Foster. 2 city council members, both recipients of generous Davidson contributions, completed the gathering. Vincent increased the audio, listening as Helena outlined their strategy for countering the Mercer problem. He's vulnerable through his company, she was saying. The Westbrook contract is his financial lifeline now. If that were to encounter difficulties, one of the council members nodded. The Historical Commission serves at the pleasure of the council. We could raise concerns about his suitability given the ongoing legal complications. Not enough, Foster interjected, his normally polished demeanor showing signs of strain. He's destroyed everything we built. He deserves more than a business setback. Helena placed a restraining hand on her son's arm. Patience, Dominic. Vincent Mercer has made himself a target, but we must be strategic. Reckless action will only strengthen his position. What about his personal life? One of the attorneys suggested. Now that Natalie's out of the picture, is there anyone else close to him? Family? A girlfriend? Business partners? Vincent tensed as Foster mentioned Parker Sullivan's name. His project manager. They've been friends for years. That could be a pressure point. Look into it, Helena instructed. Everyone has vulnerabilities. Find Mercer's. Vincent closed the connection, his decision made. Phase 2 would accelerate immediately. The Davidsons had survived on intimidation and leverage for generations. Now those same tactics would be turned against them with methodical precision. He picked up his phone and drafted a message to Diana. Time to implement the Westbrook Protocol. All targets. No exceptions. Her response came almost immediately. Understood. Files ready for distribution. Point of no return, Vincent. Are you certain? Vincent thought of Natalie's words at the retirement party. You're not real family. He thought of the serving tray in his hands, the weight of a decade's humiliation. He thought of Harold's calculated plan to build him up only to destroy him. He thought of Foster and Natalie planning their future together while orchestrating his downfall. His reply was simple. Proceed. Chapter 7. Controlled Collapse. 6 months after the gala, Vincent stood in the newly restored grand ballroom of the Westbrook estate. Sunlight streamed through the meticulously refurbished stained glass windows, casting prismatic patterns across marble floors that had been hidden beneath decades of neglect. The restoration was nearly complete, a triumph of craftsmanship that had already earned national recognition in architectural circles. "The Historical Commission is ecstatic," Parker said, joining him by the central fireplace. "They're talking about special recognition at next month's Preservation Awards." Vincent nodded, studying the intricate woodwork his team had painstakingly recreated from fragmented remains and faded photographs. The Davidson craftsmanship deserved to be preserved, whatever the family's later sins. Parker glanced at him carefully. "Speaking of the Davidsons, have you heard the latest? About Harold's compassionate release?" "Yes." Vincent's expression remained neutral. "Terminal illness has its privileges, even in the justice system." "Not just that," Parker said, lowering his voice despite the empty room. "Helena Reeves was indicted this morning. Tax evasion, wire fraud, conspiracy. The whole package." A faint smile touched Vincent's lips. "Interesting timing. Interesting source material," Parker corrected. "The evidence package came from anonymous digital drops, exactly like the ones that brought down City Councilman Weber last month, and Judge Harrington the month before that." Vincent said nothing, moving to examine a section of repaired ceiling medallion. "Vince," Parker pressed, "this systematic dismantling of everyone connected to the Davidsons. It has your fingerprints all over it. Not literally, of course. You're too careful for that. But the precision, the timing, the selection of targets. The preservation of historical detail is always my priority," Vincent remarked, apparently focused on the craftsmanship above. "Don't you find it satisfying when long-buried truths finally see the light?" Parker sighed. "When does it end?" Vincent turned to face his friend, his expression suddenly intense. "When every person who participated in their scheme has faced consequences proportionate to their involvement. Not before." "And Natalie?" Parker asked quietly. "Where does she fall in this spectrum of justice?" Before Vincent could answer, his phone chimed with a notification. He checked the screen, then pocketed the device with a slight smile. "Speaking of Natalie, she's just filed for bankruptcy. Apparently, the lifestyle she maintained after our divorce exceeded her settlement allowance." Parker looked troubled. "You're monitoring her finances?" "I monitor everyone who might pose a threat," Vincent said matter-of-factly. "The Davidsons still have resources and connections. Parker, vigilance is necessary." A construction worker appeared in the doorway, hesitantly interrupting their conversation. "Mr. Mercer? We've uncovered something unusual behind the library wall. You might want to take a look." Does something unusual prove to be a hidden vault, not marked on any of the historical plans, its existence apparently forgotten until the restoration work had revealed its outline behind damaged wood paneling? Vincent dismissed the workers, examining the vault door with professional interest. The mechanism was sophisticated for its era, a combination lock rather than a keyed entry. "Think it's empty?" Parker asked, running his hand over the aged metal surface. "No," Vincent replied with curious certainty. "The Davidsons never left value behind." He placed his ear against the door, fingers working the dial with practiced precision. Years of restoration work had given him an intuitive understanding of period mechanisms. After several methodical attempts, he felt the satisfying click of tumblers aligning. The heavy door swung open, revealing a space approximately 6 feet square. Metal shelving lined 3 walls, mostly empty but for a few leather-bound ledgers and a single wooden box similar to the one that had held the Davidson sapphires. Vincent approached the box first, opening it carefully. Inside, nestled on faded velvet, lay a signet ring bearing the Davidson family crest, the same symbol engraved on Harold's pocket watch. "Family artifacts," Vincent murmured, lifting the ring for closer inspection. Parker picked up one of the ledgers, flipping through yellowed pages covered in faded handwriting. "These look like the original account from when the house was built," he observed. "Construction costs, materials, worker payments." Vincent set down the ring and took the ledger from Parker, scanning the entries with growing interest. "Not just construction records," he said after a moment. "Look at these notations in the margins. The marginalia, written in a different hand from the main entries, detailed additional arrangements with city officials, property acquisitions from reluctant sellers, and competitive advantages gained through means left deliberately vague. The Davidson Empire's true foundation, Vincent said, a note of grim satisfaction in his voice, built on corruption from the very beginning. He gathered the ledgers, along with the ring box. These will be useful. For the historical record? Parker asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Vincent's smile was cold. History should be accurate, don't you think? Especially family history. Later that day, Vincent sat in his office reviewing the newly discovered documents. The ledgers provided context for what he had already suspected. The Davidson legacy had been built on corruption, intimidation, and fraud from its inception. The current generation had merely continued a family tradition. His intercom buzzed. "Mr. Mercer, there's a Ms. Davidson here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment." Vincent paused, surprised. "Natalie?" "No, sir. She says her name is Claire Davidson. Harold Davidson's granddaughter from his first marriage." Vincent frowned. He had researched the Davidson family extensively and had found no record of Harold having children from any marriage before his union with Natalie's mother. "Send her in," he instructed, quickly activating recording protocols on his office security system. Claire Davidson entered with the confident stride of someone accustomed to commanding attention. In her early 30s, she bore a striking resemblance to Harold, the same piercing eyes and authoritative presence, though her auburn hair and more delicate features suggested her mother's genetics had tempered the Davidson characteristics. "Mr. Mercer," she said, extending her hand. "Thank you for seeing me without an appointment." Vincent shook her hand, gesturing toward a chair. "I wasn't aware Harold had a granddaughter." "Few people are," Claire replied, sitting with perfect posture. "My mother, Harold's daughter from his first marriage, was effectively erased from the family narrative after she refused to participate in certain business practices." Vincent studied her with cautious interest. "Why come to me now?" "Because you've done what no one else could or would," Claire said directly. "You've exposed the corruption that has sustained my grandfather's empire for generations." "Your timing is convenient," Vincent observed. "The Davidson family assets are being liquidated. Harold is dying under house arrest. And suddenly an unknown heir appears." Claire smiled, a gesture that transformed her features from merely attractive to genuinely striking. "I'm not here for assets, Mr. Mercer. I have my own resources. I'm here because we share a common interest." "Which is?" "Justice," she said simply. "My mother spent years gathering evidence of Davidson crimes, evidence she intended to bring to authorities before her convenient accident 12 years ago." Vincent leaned forward slightly. "What kind of accident?" "A car with failed brakes on a mountain road," Claire said, her composure slipping to reveal a flash of old pain. "The investigation found no evidence of tampering, despite clear signs of brake line damage." "I'm sorry for your loss," Vincent said, with genuine sympathy. "But that doesn't explain why you've come to me rather than the authorities investigating the current cases." Claire reached into her handbag, removing a flash drive which she placed on Vincent's desk. "Because what's on this drive doesn't just implicate my grandfather or his immediate circle. It exposes decades of systematic corruption involving judges, politicians, business leaders, many still in positions of power." Vincent made no move to touch the drive. "And you think I'm what?" "Your ally in this broader crusade. I think you understand something fundamental about the Davidsons that law enforcement doesn't," Claire said. "This isn't about a few illegal financial transactions. It's about a dynasty built on manipulation and fear. Taking down Harold, Foster, and Helena is merely pruning the branches. The roots remain intact." Vincent felt a curious resonance with her words, an echo of his own conclusions after discovering the Westbrook ledgers. "These roots you mention, how deep do they go?" "To the founding of this city," Claire answered without hesitation. "The original Davidson, the one who built Westbrook Estate, was a master of leveraging secrets and exploiting weaknesses. Every generation since has refined his methods." She gestured toward the flash drive. "Everything is there. Names, dates, transactions, evidence trails. My mother spent 20 years compiling it. At considerable risk, apparently, Vincent noted. Claire's expression hardened, a risk that ultimately cost her life. I've spent the last decade adding to her work, waiting for the right moment and the right ally to bring it forward. Vincent still didn't touch the drive. Why me, Ms. Davidson? Why not take this directly to federal prosecutors? Because 3 federal prosecutors are implicated in these files, she replied calmly. Because you've already demonstrated both the courage to confront my family and the strategic mind to do it effectively. And because you, unlike law enforcement, aren't constrained by bureaucracy or political considerations. Vincent leaned back in his chair, studying her carefully. Claire Davidson represented either an invaluable ally or an elaborate trap, potentially both. What exactly are you proposing? He asked finally. A partnership, Claire answered. My information, your strategy. Together, we can dismantle not just the Davidson empire, but the entire corrupt network it's part of. Vincent considered her offer in silence. The systematic dismantling he had been orchestrating was already more extensive than anyone outside his inner circle realized. Claire's resources could accelerate the process significantly if she was genuine. I'll need to verify your information, he said at last, picking up the flash drive. And your identity. Claire nodded, seemingly unsurprised. I expected nothing less. You'll find DNA test results on the drive, confirming my relationship to Harold. As for the rest, she smiled again, that transformative expression that momentarily softened her intensity. I think you'll find the evidence speaks for itself. After she left, Vincent inserted the flash drive into a secure, isolated computer system specifically designed for evaluating potentially compromised data. The contents were even more extensive than Claire had suggested. Thousands of documents, photographs, audio recordings, and financial records dating back nearly 50 years. He spent hours scanning the material, his perception of the Davidson conspiracy expanding with each file. What he had uncovered was significant, but merely the visible portion of a far larger structure of corruption and influence. A text from Parker interrupted his review. Just got word. Dominic Foster has accepted a plea deal. Reduced sentence in exchange for testimony against former clients. Names are sealed, but sources say they include major political figures. Vincent sent a brief acknowledgement, then returned to Claire's files with renewed focus. Foster's plea deal aligned perfectly with patterns emerging from the historical evidence. The Davidsons had always maintained escape routes, always preserved leverage against allies who might become liabilities. By midnight, Vincent had reached a decision. He composed 2 messages. The first to Diana Lowell. Need comprehensive background check on Claire Davidson, claiming to be Harold's granddaughter from first marriage. Priority Alpha. The second to Claire herself. Preliminary review complete. Meet tomorrow, 10 a.m., Westbrook Estate Library. Come alone. Her response was immediate. I'll be there. And Mr. Mercer? Thank you for your consideration. Vincent closed the secure system and walked to the windows of his office. The city spread before him, lights gleaming against the night sky like stars fallen to earth. Somewhere in that glittering landscape, Harold Davidson was spending his final days under house arrest, his empire crumbling around him. Vincent remembered the retirement party that had set everything in motion. The tray in his hands, Natalie's casual cruelty, the weight of years of subtle humiliations. Then Harold's surprising endorsement, the contract that was meant to be both bait and trap. You're not real family, Natalie had said. She had been right, though not in the way she intended. Vincent was not a Davidson by blood or marriage, a fact for which he was increasingly grateful as the true nature of the family legacy came into focus. Tomorrow's meeting with Claire would either cement a powerful alliance or reveal a sophisticated countermove in the ongoing chess match with what remained of the Davidson influence. Either way, Vincent would be prepared. The demolition he had begun with surgical precision was approaching its final phases. What would rise from the cleared ground remained to be seen. Chapter 8. Foundation Stones. Westbrook Estate stood silent in the morning light, its restored facade gleaming like a vision, from another century. Vincent waited in the library, where ornate bookshelves now held period-appropriate volumes and reproduction artifacts. The hidden vault had been preserved as a historical feature, its door currently standing open to reveal the empty interior. The ledgers and ring box safely secured in Vincent's personal safe. The restoration was 2 weeks from completion, every detail executed according to Vincent's exacting standards. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had restored the Davidson ancestral home to its original glory, even as he systematically dismantled the family's power and reputation. Claire Davidson arrived precisely at 10, dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that conveyed serious professionalism rather than fashion consciousness. She carried a slim leather portfolio, but no purse or other accessories. "You've done remarkable work here," she observed, taking in the library's meticulously restored details. "It's exactly as my mother described it from her childhood visits." Vincent gestured toward a seating area where coffee service had been arranged on an antique table. "You've verified my restoration. Now I need to verify your information." Claire took a seat, crossing her legs with practiced elegance. "What have you concluded so far?" "That either you're exactly who you claim to be," Vincent replied, pouring coffee for them both, "or you're executing an elaborate deception orchestrated by what remains of the Davidson inner circle." "A fair assessment," Claire acknowledged, accepting the coffee without drinking it. "Have you received confirmation of my DNA test results?" "I have. They appear legitimate, though such things can be manipulated." Claire smiled slightly. "You're very thorough, Mr. Mercer. My mother would have approved." "Tell me about her," Vincent said, watching Claire's expressions carefully. "Elizabeth Davidson, Harold's daughter from his marriage to Catherine Sellers, 1966 to 1971. If Claire was surprised by his knowledge of these details, she didn't show it. "My mother was the great disappointment of Harold's life, a Davidson with a conscience. She recognized early the corruption at the heart of the family business and refused to participate, which resulted in her effective erasure from family history," Vincent noted. "More than erasure," Claire corrected. "Active suppression. Harold used his influence to block her career opportunities, sabotage her relationships, and eventually drive her into a kind of exile. She changed her name, moved across the country, and built a new life for herself and me. Yet maintained her investigation into family activities," Vincent observed. "It became her life's work," Claire confirmed. "A detailed accounting of Davidson crimes across 3 generations." Vincent studied her over the rim of his coffee cup. "Revenge is a powerful motivator." "Justice is more powerful," Claire countered, "and more sustainable." "A subtle distinction in practice," Vincent remarked. Claire set down her untouched coffee. "Not so subtle, Mr. Mercer. Revenge seeks personal satisfaction through another's suffering. Justice seeks balance, appropriate consequences for harmful actions." "And which are you pursuing, Ms. Davidson?" "Both," she admitted frankly. "I want personal satisfaction from seeing my grandfather's corrupt empire dismantled. But more importantly, I want the systemic corruption he fostered exposed and excised." Vincent nodded, appreciating her honesty. "That's essentially what Diana Lowell told me about you." Claire tensed slightly. "You've spoken with Diana about me?" "I have extensive resources for verification," Vincent said mildly. "Diana confirmed your mother's existence, your relationship, and your history of investigating the family." "I see." Claire relaxed marginally. "And what else has your verification revealed?" Vincent leaned forward. "That you've been strategic about your timing. You could have brought forward your evidence years ago, but you waited until I had already initiated the Davidson downfall." "I waited until success was possible," Claire corrected. "Previous attempts to expose the family were systematically neutralized. Your approach succeeded where others failed because you understood something essential about the Davidsons." "Which is?" "That they're builders at heart," Claire said. "Every generation has understood structural integrity, load-bearing elements, pressure points. You fought them on their own terms, architecturally." Vincent felt an unexpected sense of connection with this woman who articulated so clearly what had been his intuitive approach. "There's something you should see," he said, standing. He led her to a concealed panel beside the fireplace, pressing a hidden mechanism that caused the panel to slide silently open, revealing a small alcove. "Another vault?" Claire asked, peering into the space. "A message center," Vincent explained. "The original Davidson used this to leave instructions for associates. Arrangements too sensitive for written records." Claire stepped closer, examining the craftsmanship. "I had no idea this existed." "Few did," Vincent confirmed. "It was concealed behind later renovations until our restoration work revealed it. Along with these," he reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew several folded pages, photographs of the ledger entries he had discovered in the main vault. Claire examined them with growing interest. "These confirm everything my mother suspected about the original Davidson's methods," she said after a moment. "The foundation of coercion and manipulation was laid with the house itself." "Which brings us to our potential partnership," Vincent said, taking the pages back. "You have historical evidence. I have current leverage and strategic position. Together, we could indeed dismantle the entire corrupt network stemming from your family's influence." "But you have concerns," Claire intuited. "One primary concern," Vincent acknowledged. "Your motivation. Specifically, what you expect to gain personally from this alliance." Claire's expression turned contemplative. "A reasonable question. I have no interest in Davidson assets or influence. My professional life as an investigative journalist is quite separate from my family history." "A journalist?" Vincent raised an eyebrow. "That wasn't in your background check." "I use a professional pseudonym," Claire explained. "Alexandra Winters. Perhaps you've read my exposés on corporate fraud in the healthcare industry." Vincent had indeed read those pieces, meticulously researched investigations that had led to regulatory overhauls and several high-profile prosecutions. "Impressive work. But it doesn't answer my question about personal gain." Claire met his gaze directly. "What I gain is completion, closure, the fulfillment of my mother's final wish, to see justice served not just on Harold, but on the entire corrupt system he perpetuated." Vincent considered this, noting the emotion that briefly surfaced in her otherwise composed demeanor. "And afterward, once this mission is accomplished, I continue my work," she said simply. "There's no shortage of corruption in need of exposure." Vincent made his decision. "I propose a limited partnership, focused on specific targets drawn from your evidence and my ongoing investigations. We coordinate but operate independently where possible." "Maintaining deniability," Claire nodded. "Prudent. Essential," Vincent corrected. "Some of the methods I've employed fall into legal gray areas. I wouldn't want to compromise your journalistic integrity." A hint of amusement touched Claire's features. "How considerate. But I should warn you, Mr. Mercer, my own methods aren't always strictly conventional." They spent the next 2 hours comparing notes, aligning targets, and establishing secure communication protocols. Claire's evidence complemented Vincent's ongoing operations with remarkable synergy, filling gaps in his understanding of the broader Davidson network while providing historical context for current patterns of influence. "There's one name missing from your target list," Claire noted as they concluded their strategy session. "Natalie." Vincent's expression revealed nothing. "She's lost everything of value to her: social position, financial security, future prospects. The bankruptcy filing was merely the public acknowledgement of what was already reality." "That's surprisingly merciful," Claire observed, "given her role in the plan to destroy you." "Not mercy," Vincent corrected. "Calculation. Natalie's suffering is more complete in her current state than it would be through any additional action I might take." Claire studied him with newfound interest. "You've left her alive but irrelevant. A fate worse than financial ruin for someone whose identity was built on status and appearance." "Precisely. And Dominic Foster? His plea deal seems rather fortunate given his central role. His cooperation was necessary to reach higher value targets," Vincent explained. "And his reduced sentence still encompasses significant prison time, followed by disbarment and financial penalties that will ensure he never regains his previous position." Claire nodded thoughtfully. "You're more strategic than vindictive." "That's unexpected." "Effectiveness requires clarity," Vincent said. Emotion clouds judgment. Yet this entire campaign began with a profound emotional injury, Claire pointed out. At my grandfather's retirement party. Vincent didn't deny it. The emotional catalyst launched a strategic response. The injury revealed the threat, which necessitated my countermeasures. Their conversation was interrupted by a call from Parker Sullivan. Vincent excused himself to take it privately. Vince, Parker sounded tense. We have a situation. Harold Davidson was found dead this morning. Vincent absorbed this news with measured reaction. Natural causes? That's the official statement. But the timing is suspicious. He was scheduled to give additional testimony tomorrow regarding political connections. Location? His home. Under house arrest, remember? But here's the thing. The security monitoring system experienced a technical glitch for approximately 40 minutes last night. When it came back online, the surveillance showed Harold apparently sleeping. He was found unresponsive by his nurse this morning. Vincent processed this information quickly. Who had access to his residence? That's where it gets interesting, Parker replied. Natalie visited yesterday afternoon, stayed for 2 hours, left visibly upset, according to the security detail. Interesting indeed, Vincent murmured. Keep me updated on any developments. And Parker? Increase our own security protocols immediately. When Vincent returned to the library, Claire was examining the architectural plans for Westbrook Estate displayed on one wall. My grandfather is dead, she said without turning around. I just received notification. Vincent studied her posture, looking for signs of distress or relief. How do you feel about that? Complicated, Claire admitted, finally facing him. The man was a monster in many ways, yet still my blood. I've spent so long pursuing justice for his crimes that I never considered how I'd feel when he was actually gone. Justice outlives its targets, Vincent observed. His death doesn't end our work. Claire nodded, composing herself. If anything, it makes it more urgent. Without Harold as the central figure, the remaining network will reconfigure itself. Adapt, possibly become more dangerous. My thoughts exactly, Vincent agreed. We should accelerate our timeline. As they refined their strategy in light of this development, Vincent found himself increasingly impressed by Claire's analytical abilities and strategic insight. She approached the dismantling of corrupt networks with the same architectural precision he valued in restoration work, identifying key structural elements, planning their removal in the optimal sequence, anticipating the resulting stresses, and compensating accordingly. By late afternoon, they had established a comprehensive action plan targeting the remaining Davidson network. Judges who had ruled favorably on family matters, politicians who had facilitated zoning exceptions and regulatory waivers, business partners who had laundered influence and profits through seemingly legitimate enterprises. One final question, Claire said as they concluded. The Westbrook estate itself. What happens to it when the restoration is complete? It becomes a historical museum and educational center, Vincent explained. The deed has been transferred to a nonprofit preservation trust. Claire smiled with genuine pleasure. Perfect. The house that corruption built transformed into a monument to historical transparency. As she gathered her materials to leave, Vincent made a decision. Claire, there's something else you should see. He led her to his vehicle, driving them to a secure storage facility on the outskirts of the city. Inside a climate-controlled unit, dozens of carefully labeled boxes contained organized evidence, the physical manifestation of Vincent's methodical dismantling of the Davidson empire. This is, Claire breathed, taking in the scope of his collection. Insurance, Vincent said simply, and legacy. Everything here is duplicated in secure digital storage with deadman protocols. If anything happens to me, the entire archive is automatically distributed to law enforcement agencies, journalists, and regulatory bodies. Claire turned to him, understanding dawning in her eyes. You never intended to stop with Harold and his immediate circle. No, Vincent confirmed. From the moment I understood the true scope of their activities, I committed to complete demolition. Why show me this now? Vincent regarded her steadily. Because if we're truly partners in this, you deserve to know exactly what you're part of. And because if anything does happen to me, Someone needs to ensure the protocols execute properly. Claire nodded slowly, the weight of this trust evident in her expression. Thank you. I won't disappoint you. As they drove back to the city, Vincent received another call from Parker, this time with news that crystallized the next phase of their campaign. The medical examiner is ruling Harold's death as suspicious, Parker reported. Possible poisoning, and Natalie has disappeared. Her apartment was found empty, evidence of hasty packing. Vincent exchanged a glance with Claire. Interesting timing. There's more, Parker continued. Helena Reeves is claiming that Harold's death nullifies certain evidence agreements, as he can no longer testify to authenticate key documents. A predictable legal maneuver, Vincent noted. Unlikely to succeed, but it will cause delays. After ending the call, he brought Claire up to speed on these developments. Natalie fleeing suggests foreknowledge, Claire observed, either of Harold's death or of something equally damaging about to emerge. Either way, Vincent replied, it changes our immediate priorities. That evening, having established their partnership and initial strategy, Vincent returned to his apartment to find an unexpected delivery, a small package with no return address. Inside was the Davidson signet ring he had discovered in the Westbrook vault, along with a handwritten note. The prodigal son takes his rightful place. Welcome to the family, Vincent. Vincent studied the ring, turning it in the light to examine the intricate crest. Then, with deliberate finality, he placed it in a small evidence bag, labeled it meticulously, and added it to his growing archive of Davidson crimes and manipulation. Natalie's message was clear. She saw his methodical dismantling of her family's empire not as destruction, but as succession. In her mind, Vincent had become a Davidson in all but name, employing their own tactics against them with a skill that perversely earned her respect. She couldn't have miscalculated more completely. Vincent wasn't becoming a Davidson. He was ensuring that what the Davidsons represented would be systematically eradicated, not just their wealth and influence, but the entire corrupt foundation they had established across generations. He sent a brief text to Claire. Phase 1 complete. Phase 2 begins tomorrow. Be ready. Her response came moments later. Ready and committed. No mercy, no exceptions. Vincent smiled faintly at the echo of his own uncompromising philosophy. Perhaps she was more like him than he had initially recognized, determined, methodical, and absolutely unwilling to forgive those who had caused irreparable harm. The demolition was entering its final phase. What would rise from the cleared ground was becoming clearer. Not a new empire built on the corrupt foundation of the old, but something fundamentally different. A structure of accountability, transparency, and justice that would make the corruption of the past impossible to rebuild. Chapter 9. The Final Beam. 1 year to the day after Harold Davidson's retirement party, Vincent stood alone on the terrace of the fully restored Westbrook estate. The property's formal gardens had been replanted according to original designs, though the modern irrigation system concealed beneath the classical landscape ensured sustainability that the original Davidson builder had never considered. The grand opening of the Westbrook Historical Center was scheduled for the following day, a civic celebration expected to draw officials, preservationists, and media from across the country. The Davidson family home had been transformed into a museum dedicated to architectural preservation and historical transparency, with one wing specifically focused on documenting the rise and fall of corrupt power structures in the city's development. Vincent's phone chimed with a notification. The final judgment in the Davidson Enterprises bankruptcy proceedings had been entered. The remaining legitimate assets had been distributed to creditors, pension claimants, and various restitution funds. The Davidson name now existed primarily in cautionary business ethics case studies and law enforcement databases. Over the past year, Vincent and Claire had methodically executed their plan to dismantle the broader Davidson network. 27 indictments, 15 convictions, 9 plea agreements, 3 judicial resignations, and 2 regulatory overhauls later, the corrupt ecosystem that had sustained Davidson influence for generations had been comprehensively dismantled. Claire had published a series of explosive investigative articles under her Alexandra Winters byline. documenting the historical pattern of corruption with evidence so irrefutable that even the most powerful figures implicated have been unable to evade consequences. Her work had earned national recognition, including a prestigious journalism award. Vincent had maintained his more shadowed role, providing evidence and strategic direction while focusing publicly on the Westbrook Restoration and the continued growth of Mercer Restoration, which had become the region's premier historical preservation firm. "I thought I'd find you here." Claire's voice interrupted his thoughts as she joined him on the terrace. "Contemplating your masterpiece." Vincent turned to greet her. Over the past year, their professional partnership had evolved into something more complex. Not quite friendship, but a deep mutual respect founded on shared purpose and complementary methods. "Considering symmetry," he corrected. "1 year ago today, I stood in a different ballroom, holding a serving tray while your grandfather prepared to sacrifice me for family preservation." Claire nodded, understanding the significance. "And tomorrow, the world celebrates your restoration of the physical Davidson legacy, while the family itself has been consigned to history's cautionary chapters." "Poetic justice," Vincent agreed. "Speaking of justice," Claire said, her tone shifting to business, "I received confirmation that Natalie has been located in Argentina. Local authorities are cooperating with the extradition request." Vincent absorbed this information with characteristically measured reaction. Following Harold's death, eventually ruled as poisoning by sophisticated means, Natalie had disappeared with remaining liquid assets from several hidden accounts. International warrants had been issued, but she had managed to elude authorities until now. "And Foster?" Vincent asked. "Still cooperating from federal custody," Claire confirmed. "His testimony in the Westridge case was particularly effective. 3 more indictments expected next week." Vincent nodded, satisfied with the progress. "And Helena?" "Sentencing next month. Her health is failing, but not quickly enough to keep her from significant prison time." They stood in comfortable silence, surveying the grounds of the estate that symbolized both the beginning and end of Davidson influence. "I've been offered a position with a National Investigative Journalism Center," Claire said after a moment, "leading a team focused on systematic corruption in infrastructure development." "You should take it," Vincent said without hesitation. "Your work deserves broader platform and resources." Claire studied him with a perceptive gaze that had made her such an effective investigator. "What about you, Vincent? What comes after this?" It was a question he had been considering with increasing frequency. The Davidson Project, as he had come to think of it, had consumed him for over a year. Its approaching completion left an uncertain future. "Mercer Restoration continues," he said. "There are other historical properties deserving preservation." "That's the business," Claire noted. "I'm asking about the man." Vincent considered this distinction. "The man continues as well, perhaps with a different focus. Other corrupt systems to dismantle," Claire suggested. "Perhaps," Vincent allowed. "Or perhaps something constructive rather than destructive." "You've always been a builder at heart," Claire observed. "Even your demolition was precisely engineered." Before Vincent could respond, Parker Sullivan approached from the main house, tablet in hand. "Final inspection reports are all positive," Parker announced. "Historical Commission has signed off completely. We're officially done." Vincent nodded. "Thank you, Parker, for everything." The depth of meaning in those simple words wasn't lost on his longtime friend and ally. Parker had stood by him through the entire Davidson campaign, despite occasional moral qualms about certain tactics. "Pleasure and privilege," Parker replied with equal simplicity. "What's next on the agenda?" "Tomorrow's opening ceremony," Vincent said. "Then we'll see." After Parker returned to the house, Claire's phone chimed with a notification. She checked it, her expression tightening. "What is it?" Vincent asked. "A message from my source in federal marshals," Claire replied. "Natalie is claiming to have evidence implicating you in Harold's death. Says she'll only surrender it in exchange for immunity." Vincent's expression didn't change. An expected maneuver. Desperate, but predictable. Claire studied him carefully. "Is there any substance to her claim?" "None whatsoever," Vincent said calmly. "I didn't kill Harold Davidson, though I can't pretend to mourn him. The timing of his death was remarkably convenient, Claire observed neutrally. For several parties, Vincent acknowledged, including Natalie herself, who visited him hours before his death and fled immediately after. Claire nodded, accepting his answer. I never truly believed you were involved. Your methods have always been more elegant than murder. I dismantle systems, not people, Vincent confirmed. Harold's death was unnecessary to my objectives and potentially counterproductive, as it complicated certain evidence chains. What do you think Natalie hopes to gain with this claim? Claire asked. Time, Vincent replied. Leverage. Perhaps a better plea arrangement. She's applying the Davidson playbook, when cornered, create confusion and implicate others. A strategy that no longer works now that the playbook itself has been exposed, Claire noted with satisfaction. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the restored gardens, Vincent found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought him to this moment. The humiliation of the retirement party seemed distant now, not forgotten, but transformed into the catalyst for a campaign of justice more comprehensive than he could have initially imagined. I should go, Claire said, checking her watch. Final edits on tomorrow's piece before the ceremony. Vincent nodded. The full exposé on the Davidson legacy? It's appropriate timing. A fitting conclusion, Claire agreed. Though not quite the end of our work. No, Vincent confirmed. Not quite the end. After Claire left, Vincent remained on the terrace as darkness fell and lights automatically illuminated the gardens. Tomorrow, this property would become public, a monument to preservation and transparency. The final step in transforming the Davidson legacy from power and corruption to historical caution. His phone chimed with a text from an unknown international number. It was never personal, Vincent, just family business. I did what was expected, as did you. Perhaps we're not so different after all. N. Vincent read the message twice, then deleted it without responding. Natalie still didn't understand. For the Davidsons, nothing had ever been personal. People were merely assets or obstacles to be utilized or removed according to family interest. For Vincent, everything was personal. Every decision, every action, every consequence, all stemming from a fundamental belief in personal responsibility and accountability. The very antithesis of the Davidson philosophy. His phone rang. Parker again. Vince, there's a situation at the main entrance. Security just stopped someone trying to access the property. Says she's your daughter. Vincent froze. I don't have a daughter. That's what I told security, Parker confirmed. But she's insistent. Young woman, maybe 20, has documentation supposedly proving relation. Says her name is Sophia Mercer. Vincent's mind raced through possibilities. A Davidson tactic? A desperate attempt by Natalie to create leverage? Or was something else entirely? Bring her to my office, Vincent instructed. Full security protocols. I want to hear what she has to say. 20 minutes later, Vincent studied the young woman seated across from him in the estate's restored library. Sophia Mercer, if that was indeed her name, had his eyes and jawline, combined with features that triggered uncomfortable recognition from a relationship long before Natalie. You honestly had no idea I existed? Sophia asked, her tone more curious than accusatory. None, Vincent confirmed, still processing the documentation she had provided. Birth certificate, photographs, DNA test results. Your mother never informed me of her pregnancy. She said you were focused on building your company, Sophia explained. That you made it clear you weren't interested in family responsibilities. Vincent recalled Rebecca Chambers. A brief relationship during the early days of Mercer Restoration ended amicably when their career paths diverged. She had moved to the West Coast for a job opportunity, and they had lost touch. That's not accurate, Vincent said carefully. Had I known, I would have acknowledged my responsibilities. Sophia nodded, seemingly unsurprised. Mom admitted recently that she made that choice unilaterally. That's partly why I'm here. Why now? Vincent asked. Why today specifically? I've been following your work, Sophia explained. The Davidson exposé, the restoration of this estate. I'm studying architectural preservation at university. Your company's approach is revolutionary. Vincent absorbed this information, noting the precise way she analyzed the room's restoration details even as they spoke, a familiar trait that resonated uncomfortably. "That explains your interest in my work," Vincent acknowledged. "Not your timing." Sophia met his gaze directly, another familiar trait. "Mom is dying. Cancer. She wanted me to know my father before." She paused, composing herself. "I've known about you my whole life." She kept detailed records, followed your career. "I've just been working up the courage to make contact." Vincent processed this revelation with the same controlled exterior he maintained through all significant developments, though internally a profound shift was occurring. "I'll need to verify this information," he said finally. "Of course," Sophia agreed readily. "I expected nothing less." The conversation continued for another hour. Sophia, describing her upbringing in Seattle, her education, her own interest in historical architecture that had developed independently of any knowledge of her father's specific expertise. Throughout, Vincent observed her mannerisms, her analytical approach to describing complex subjects, her careful emotional containment, all reflecting aspects of himself so precisely that DNA verification seemed almost redundant. After security escorted Sophia to accommodations arranged at a nearby hotel, with promises of continued conversation the following day pending verification, Vincent sat alone in the library, considering this unexpected development. Parker joined him, concern evident in his expression. "Initial verification checks support her claims," he reported. "Rebecca Chambers exists, worked for Wallace Design until her medical leave 3 months ago. Sophia's educational records match her story." Vincent nodded, processing. "Continue comprehensive verification." Discreetly. "Of course," Parker agreed. "But Vince, she does look like you." "Yes," Vincent acknowledged. "She does." After Parker left, Vincent returned to the terrace. The restored Davidson estate spread before him in moonlight. The symmetry he had noted earlier had taken on new dimensions. As he completed the dismantling of one family legacy built on corruption and manipulation, the possibility of a genuine family connection had emerged unexpectedly. His phone buzzed with a text from Claire. "Final article approved for publication after tomorrow's ceremony. The Davidson chapter closes definitively. What comes next for you?" Vincent considered the question, looking out over the grounds of Westbrook Estate, a property built by the original Davidson as a monument to corrupt power, now transformed into a center for historical truth and preservation. The demolition was complete. The foundation had been exposed, the corrupt structure dismantled. Now came the greater challenge, building something worthy in its place. His reply to Claire was simple. Something new, something better. As he stood alone under the night sky, Vincent Mercer, builder, destroyer, and now possibly father, allowed himself to contemplate a future not defined by vengeance but by creation. The final beam of his demolition project would become the first stone of something entirely different. The last gift Harold Davidson had unknowingly given him wasn't the Westbrook contract or the validation at the retirement party. It was the catalyst for complete transformation, the opportunity to dismantle not just the Davidson empire, but the limitations of his own past. Tomorrow, the world would witness the culmination of his vengeful precision. But after that would come something even Harold Davidson could never have anticipated. A legacy built on truth rather than deception, creation rather than destruction, and a foundation strong enough to support generations to come. Vincent smiled faintly at the symmetry of it all, standing exactly 1 year later, no longer an outsider holding a serving tray, but the architect of his own destiny and perhaps, unexpectedly, a family legacy worthy of preservation. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.